Now for this week's main program, here is VP of Programs, David Payne, to introduce our featured speaker.
Thank you, Jeff. Patti Payne is a well-known and much awarded local media, broadcast, and print personality whose work in our community is widespread. Her enthusiasm and energy have helped raise the bar at thousands of entertainment events and auctions and other regional fundraisers for more than 30 years. She is a columnist for the Puget Sound Business Journal and a sought-after keynote speaker and MC. Payne serves as principal of her own public affairs and community relations business, the Payne Group Communicating and Connecting. She is on a variety of boards, including Bellevue LifeSpring Advisory, Treehouse Advisory, Cancer Lifeline Advisory, and is a longtime member of the Community Development Roundtable. She is also an accomplished vocalist, pianist, and drummer. Perhaps she would like to join our Rotary Rogues for a gig at an upcoming event. Now, before we get started, Patti shared that you might just want to grab a pen and paper, as there may be a couple of leadership nuggets you'll want to write down and share with others. Rotarians, please welcome Patti Payne to the podium.
Hi, Seattle 4. Can y'all hear me? Thumbs up? Yes? Good, good, good. Greetings from Payne Acres. I'm going to take my jacket off because most of you look pretty informal. And I'm just going to join the crowd. What an honor to be talking to Seattle 4, which is billed as one of the largest Rotaries in the world. So I have a great gratitude to David Payne. What a fun he is to talk with. To Mark David, to Steve Fleischman, Carol B., and thank you, President Jeff, for getting me here today. And after listening to all the speakers before me, I'm thinking you really don't need me at all. I've heard some really, really interesting comments. Thank you, Nick, for that as well. It was just, it was great. And a lot of that is what I'm going to be telling you today. It's a little uneasy being on this side of the fence, because usually I'm the one who's interviewing you. Having the spotlight on me is not what it's all about. I'm the one who's getting your tips and your news and sometimes your top secrets. You entrust me with these secrets, and I love dealing with you. I love the relationship and the trust that we've built through the years. I love Rotary and what you stand for, service before self. I've watched deals being made there at Rotary. I've been to so many wonderful meetings. I've watched businesses being born and some die there. And I've watched, most importantly, community being lifted. I asked you what you were working on currently, and I was told leadership. And so this is what I'm going to be talking about today, my painful perspectives on leadership. I am just going to give one big plug to the Puget Sound Business Journal. As you all know, I was anchor at King Como in Cairo for years, and Puget Sound Business Journal, I've been working there for 17, 18 years. And we have an incredible new leader there. He really epitomizes leadership. His name is Don Baker. He's our president and publisher. He came to us from one of our 45 papers across the country, all business-oriented papers. And our parent company is owned by the same, we are owned by our parent company that owns The New Yorker, Vanity Fair, Architectural Digest, and Condé Nast. You may not know that, but I know that we're in really, really good company working for this outfit. And I want you to meet Don. You'll love him, and I want him to come and talk to you on one of these times soon. So just quickly, born in New York, raised in Southern California. My mother co-founded the USO. She's not given credit for it. She was made a general in the Man's Army, the first woman general ever, an honorary brigadier general. She had a little office in the Pentagon when she wanted it. She was commissioned by Roosevelt and recommissioned by Truman for that work. Really, really proud of that fact. And fast forward, married a United Airlines captain from Montana, a cowboy, a bad boy, and he took us to 5,000 acres in the middle of nowhere. And we lived without plumbing, without electricity for years there. We did have a landing strip for his plane, which was a twin-engine Navion, and he would commute from the ranch to the base, and then he would take off for his 4 or 5 days working for United and then come back home. fly back home. I learned how to rope ride and neuter everything in sight. We had 1,000 cow-calf units. I'd never even heard of that where we lived in California. Never saw a cow up close, but I can tell you, I loved that life. I learned a lot, and so did my girls. I want to tell you a story that I will never forget that I think to me is the key for leadership. I was working for one of the main stations, and I was talking to a woman, interviewing a woman at her place of work, which was a nonprofit that helped children, and children actually lived there, who were unmanageable in their view. These were children who were victims of violence and abuse and some unspeakable things. And these were incredible children. And I was talking to her about these children and how they worked with them and the patience and love that they showed. And I wanted to talk to the children, of course. And she said, no, they don't talk. And I said, what do you mean? She said, they don't communicate. They don't talk. And after some negotiations with her, I found myself sitting in the middle of a circle of about 10 children. And I made eye contact with one. His name was Michael, it was on his tag. And they didn't talk, and it was Christmas time. And all I wanted to get out of them was one wish that they had for Christmas. Just one thing they wanted, because I thought my station could fulfill that wish, could give them what they wanted, a bicycle, anything that they wanted. And I couldn't get anything, it was just blank. But my eye contact was with this Michael. And finally I heard this breath, and I knew something was going to happen. And he opened his mouth to speak. And the one thing he wanted came out in 3 words. And he said, one good day. That was all I wanted. You know what? The leadership that took, and as Nick said, he chose to break through the pain and lead the way, set such an example for the other children. And he knew he was in a safe zone. It moved me for life. And we kept tabs for a long, long time. We kept in touch with each other for a long, long time. Not to say there was a huge breakthrough, but it was huge. And it was a story of really true leadership. Leadership is how we think of approaching every day. It is absolutely a choice. It's how we find that spark within ourselves that inspires us, that brings us joy, and that inspires us to lift others. When I think of leadership, I think of humility. And the 3 leaders that come to my mind that I must say really epitomize that is Dan Evans, our former governor and US Senator, who's just written this incredible autobiography that you can get from the Secretary of State's office. It's Howard B. Har, who wrote The Magic Cup, former president of Starbucks. Humility personified, brilliance personified, all of these people. And of course, Blake Nordstrom, whose extend yourself mantra was given out to all of us at his memorial service, the late Blake Nordstrom, one of the greatest young leaders of our time. Leadership doesn't have to be a look at me, look who I am. Leadership is humble. It starts with each and every one of us. And I believe it starts with us personally, laying out for ourselves a personal mission statement, just a tiny statement, 1 or 2 sentences, no more than that, that is written in stone that we live by every single day. It's not changeable. And then lay out a couple to 4 core values that are yours, very personal. Is it truth? Is it integrity? Is it trust? What is it that you want to be your top core values that you live by every day? That's not negotiable to you. It's done. It's done. And you check in with those every single day to make sure you're on track. We can get off track pretty easily. Then you do something that is a work in progress, and that's a little bit longer, and it's a vision statement. Where do you see yourself going on this path that we're all on? Where do you see yourself in a year, in 5 years? It's changeable. It's kind of a fun work in progress exercise. In truth, there's nothing new about leadership. It goes back to Plato and Aristotle. There's nothing new under the sun. It's all just principles that are repackaged a little differently by each individual, by each one of us. We visited, Don Baker and I, recently with Ben Minicucci at Alaska Airlines, and he spoke to you last week. What an incredible, effective, authentic man he is. And he is spreading kindness throughout his company and mindfulness. How simple is that? And how effective is that? Dave Saby, who heads Saby Corp, sees himself as a coach with his longtime background in sports. Quarterback at Utah, yep. And while he coaches, he doesn't ask anybody to do anything that he wouldn't do. I saved his notes. He said simply at his Saby Corp, doing cool stuff with cool people that raises all boats is what they do. He said they can be pretty corny, like their first core value is do the right thing. How hard is that? And then too at Saby, they have a core value of accelerated continuous learning. Leaders are voracious leaders, and Saby is one of them. They coach all of them to read books, to take courses each year, and to improve themselves for their own good and that of the team, and they actually do that. They have an entire department assigned to coordinate the intellectual growth and leadership skills of the team. They're also the first company ever to offer personal scientific wellness as a benefit. That's mind, body, and spirit. Very unusual and really pretty fabulous. And then their final core value is esprit de corps. And that to them means having fun in everything that you do. They coach you, if you're not happy, then don't be there. Be someplace else. If you can't find happiness and joy in what you're doing, it's not a good fit. I feel the same way about family. If you can't find joy and happiness in those family relationships, you've got to do something about it. The goal of a leader, and really of everybody as an individual, is to make the community immediately around you a better place, a stronger place. It's not about personal gain, as Nick said so eloquently. And we need to ask ourselves, how do I do this? Am I making my immediate surroundings better? Am I making the place better around me, the community better around me? Rotary is such an incredible example of this. And all of you as leaders in Rotary as well. And then you make yourself into a place that's a better city and a better state and a better country. It's a ripple effect. If you start with yourself as a fundamental of your job, then how you lead is really pretty clear. It's all about how you treat people, how you approach every day. It's not allocated to one person at the top of an organization. It's every single one of us. I believe this so deeply. It's true on every level of every rung that we find ourselves on. All of us are leaders. We're our own individual thinkers. Because yes, Nick, it's our choice. We don't have to be led around by the nose. We don't have to follow somebody else's dreams. We don't have to embrace somebody else's life. Colin Powell said it best, and I will never forget when I interviewed him, what a presence and what a calm strength he has. He was recounting his journey with cancer, and he was sharing timeless leadership advice, simple and powerful, and it holds true for every one of us, and it bears repeating. Here they are. It isn't as bad as you think. It can be done. Remain calm and be kind. Don't let anger take over. Get mad, but get over it. Perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. If that shouldn't be a needle point, I mean, I don't know what should be. That's the best. Perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. Another one of my idol leaders is Bill Ayre, who was just before Brad Tilton, a great leader himself. But Bill Ayre really kind of revamped Alaska Airlines. He had a quote from Thomas Edison that was his favorite. Vision without execution is hallucination. So just think about it. We can come up with all these great ideas and visions, but if we don't execute on it, it's hallucination. Couldn't be more direct than that. Here are Bill's lessons that he laid out, and his simple principles that really turned Alaska Airlines around. Get the right people on the bus. Create a sense of urgency. Work only on 1 or 2 big ideas at a time. What you measure gets done. What a concept. It reminds me of the scale. Focus on what you can control over the long term. Be totally and completely customer focused. Don't confuse being popular with doing the right thing. Develop strategic partnerships. And his 4 basic principles that you must have heard from your grandparents, or hopefully your parents, carries over not only to business, but into our personal lives. Do not buy things you cannot afford, even the smallest thing. Don't borrow money you can't pay back. Don't do deals you don't understand. And if it doesn't seem quite right, it probably isn't. One of my other favorites is probably somebody who has spoken to you as well, and that's Alan Malali, the president and CEO of Ford Motor Company, who literally did a Herculean feat in pushing that ball up the hill. And he did it. He turned Ford Motor Company around. And this was after he was president and CEO of Boeing Commercial, but was passed over for the top job. I knew him when I was broadcast news anchor and reporter, and he was an engineer at Boeing, and this was before he was director of engineering on the 777. And from that long a time ago to now, he hasn't changed. He's still disarming, he's still accessible, he still has that boyish grin, and he still is approachable. I watched him turn a young man's life around in the span of minutes. We had him speak at Puget Sound Business Journal, and there was a line around the block to get into that. And then afterwards of people waiting to talk to him. And one young man finally got up to the head of the line, and he was in school. And Alan asked him where he went to school. And they had great eye contact. And he asked for some advice from Alan for school. And Alan said, study engineering and finance, not one or the other. And then he offered the young man his email and his telephone number. And they kept in touch. That was the most authentic thing to do. Much of the advice that Alan gives is universal and could be applied across the widest swath of nonprofits and businesses. So I'm just going to lay out some Malaliisms that I have loved. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Some people listen, but they're not hearing. They listen, but they already have an answer formulated, and boom, it comes back and turns you around. Listen. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Hold 2 thoughts. What is the reality and what do we want to create? Put people first. Include everybody. Be truthful. Uncertainty and gossiping and lack of engagement are the result of insufficient communication. Whether at home or in business, people can't read your mind. Talk about it. Believe in your people. Leadership is about building and developing the capability of a team. Have a compelling vision, a comprehensive strategy, and implement it relentlessly. Trust the process and the plan, he says. These are your 2 biggest support pillars when tough times come. And my favorite is facts and data set you free. Rely on them. Have fun, but 0 tolerance for those who violate norms and expected behaviors. He says norms and expected behaviors are the elements that establish the culture of an organization. It's okay if somebody can't come up with a problem that you've given them to solve, but he shows no tolerance for employees who violate values and expected behaviors. I called Phil Condit, who is former chief of Boeing, a little while ago when I knew I was going to be giving this speech, and I asked him for some leadership and in particular, corporate leadership advice. He would not pinpoint a company. But listen closely, this is interesting. He says, as far as running a company, you need to look much deeper than the bottom line. And this applies to nonprofits as well, because nonprofits are a business. He says, as far as running the company, every company needs to look at how they make the best and safest products, and everybody's focus should be on that, creating a culture that believes in greatness and pursues it rather than individual gain and the bottom line. This is a direct quote. It sounds trite, he said, but if you pursue just the bottom line, in the end, it betrays you. You've got to build great products, still quoting, and have great service while concentrating on caring about people, and then great things happen. You could read between the lines. He's not pinpointing a company, but it certainly applies. So the common element in these lessons is to consistently demonstrate these leadership traits by being your authentic self. Turning astray from any of those gives people on your team room to pause and question your own authenticity and your integrity as a leader. Turn away from any of them as a parent, and it gives your children mixed messages. The world is hungry for leadership more than ever. What can each of us do to fulfill that void and fulfill that need? The pandemic has taught us so many lessons, but the biggest one that we can count on is change and uncertainty. So my wish for you in this amazing service organization that each of you are a part of, you're a part of change in a positive way. And Colin Powell spoke about it so eloquently. My wish for you is that we find strength and joy and compassion and connection and grace in this journey that we all are moving forward in this very uncertain time. And that we hear the music along the way and that we crank it. I say happy Valentine's Day coming up for each one of you leaders in the audience today, and gratitude again for having me talk to Seattle 4. I appreciate it so much. I had many more things to say, but I've been told that we're running late. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those for you.
Thank you, Patti. Awesome. I didn't know what to expect today, and you blew my mind. Talk about great leadership. I like all these stories. I bought 2 Fords once because I saw Alan Malali speak at that PSBJ. He was mind-blowing.
Wasn't he?
Mind-blowing. I was like fanboying. Anyway, lots of questions coming. So I'll throw out some questions. We'll make them rapid because we've only got like 4 minutes and there's a lot of questions. Is there anyone who surprised you with leadership skills or impact that was unexpected? Go.
Actually, my new boss, Don Baker. I'm listening. I hope he's not listening because he comes across as almost folksy and very hands-off. But when you're into it for about an hour, you realize, oh no, this is a real leader. He listens, he comes up with ideas, but boy, you feel like you are the only person in the room when he's talking to you. And you probably he does feel that. He's very authentic. And you would never know this, but he also played in the World Series of Poker. So you never know what's going on behind that face. And I probably shouldn't tell you that either, but he's quite interesting.
That's funny.
He was a real surprise.
So all his meetings are with sunglasses on. Can you tell us about a leader who made a dramatic change in their leadership style because something they were doing wasn't working?
In their style? No, I can't really think of that person. I mean, I can think of somebody in politics, of course, but I can't think of anybody that I interviewed that absolutely changed their style. No.
Yeah, it's an interesting question though, isn't it? I mean, people hopefully learn by their mistakes, right? Hopefully they're aware enough that like, probably shouldn't have done that, and they can course correct, right?
But there's a lot of course correction, but that's not a style change. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the elements of leadership is being able to admit and course correct. Absolutely. But I don't think it's a style change. Nobody
Yeah.
really changed their style.
Okay,
Yeah.
good point.
And
Yes, very well.
I've interviewed the Pope, the Queen of England. I mean, I've been all over the world. I've covered everything from when the nation's heartland blew up and Timothy McVeigh blew up the federal courthouse there to the Paris Air Show. And I've talked to everybody. And I can't really remember a course correction of a leader. Certainly a politician, a leader type, but
Yeah, all right. You
Not-
mentioned,
not the best ones.
all right. You mentioned before about leaders having a voracious appetite for reading. We're curious what you are currently reading.
Well, just finished reading Dan Evans' autobiography, and he said to me, Patty, unless people are reading history, and he's reading about King George V, unless people are reading history, they don't really understand what's happening in the world today. And he's saying, we're not in such a bad place. I am also rereading A Confederacy of Dunces because I need the laugh and that whole paradigm. It's really deep and really funny, but I would recommend that. I'm reading a beautiful book called Paris in the Present Tense, which is a novel, and the writing by Mark Helpring is delicious. It's so detailed and delicious. And also I would recommend reading Fahrenheit 451 again by Ray Bradbury. This is that dystopian 1953 novel, and in it he talks about books being burned. It's so prescient from today, and these appointed firemen that would go in and burn these books for reasons that we're hearing now. And he talks about a world in which, this was in 1953, he talks about a world in which people are hooked into earphones and earbuds and looking down at screens and bumping into things because they're not paying attention, and how social media took over life. And it wasn't called social media back then, but boy, what a great book to reread. If you haven't read it, it was science fiction then, but sadly, it's not.
That's art imitating life. Patty, thank you so much for being here. We have to have you back. We have to have you back for sure. I have the next job of bringing people back, so I will do that for sure. You have been entertaining and inspiring both at the same time. So thank you. Keep up your great work. Keep on being a good mom. I happen to be buddies with your daughter Lee, and I know that you're a good mom first. So keep that up. Thank you for being here today.
I want to plug that my daughter Lee is a great businesswoman on her own. She has the Keller Group, and then I have another daughter, Jill, who's a fantastic artist, glass artist. So I have two incredible daughters, and I'm really, really blessed. And I have Ziggy Lou Payne. You probably read about her in the column. And I have Mindy Lou Payne, and I have Princess Pumpkin Lou Payne, and I have Walter Lou Payne. So they're all wandering around. And I do want you all to be able to reach me. So please, my phone number, which is at the bottom of my column, is 206-234-6827. And my email is L as in Lou, Payne, PLPayne@msn.com. I'm open to your ideas. I'm open to your tips and hints and criticism and critique and everything else, to know that we're serving you the best way that we can too in what we're doing. So
awesome. Thank you very much. All right. On behalf, in appreciation for your participation today, Patty, a donation equal to 600 healthy servings of produce has been made on your behalf to Harvest Against Hunger. This gift will support families in need through the food bank in Washington State. So there you go. You weren't expecting that.
No, I'm so happy for that. Thank you. What an honor.
You're welcome. All right, let's move along. Quick shout out to our two big gold sponsors, a leader in her own right, Liz Powell, and another great leader, Bob Alexander. Wow, thank you.